Episode 2, Daily Double. We're back here recording a recap of the Belmont Stakes.
Okay.
I'm excited for this one because we did a preview of the Belmont Stakes, and I got some great feedback from some family and friends, people that listen to the podcast, being like, we were pretty spot on.
Hey, you know what? It was pretty easy to handicap that puppy, though. It was no great shakes. There were other races that we had difficulties with, but not that one.
No, it was. You're right. And before we get into the Belmont Stakes recap, we will give you a brief update on the 2025 Cap-In contest that my dad and I are doing. We each fell into our first winner of the year, so we're both 1 for 6. Right. Your horse paid like $22.
Oh, 25 something, I think. 25.60.
And mine paid like maybe like 7 and change.
740, I think.
Yeah, so I had Sovereignty this past weekend. Felt like a no-brainer to me, but I guess people were still on the journalism bandwagon, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But my dad's horse was much more impressive.
Yeah, pentathlon. Yeah, that was. I enjoyed that hit. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I didn't make enough on it though.
yeah, that is true. That is true for such a good call.
Horses, I had him on top of 5. Long shots ran in there. It was the 10 center was like 741 skin boats.
It was like, This was, so just going back for context, this was Belmont Stakes Day, Saratoga, race 10 or 11 when you had pentathlon. Was that?
No,
that was early in the card. Race 7.
Right.
Race 7. Because we came back and watched 10 and 11 at my house. 10 was when we had the horse who was the favorite and just got beat. Who was the horse that went out to the lead and then got passed? And we both had. Yeah, Mibago.
But we didn't think there was nobody else in the race.
A price horse came.
He quit the little bit,
He did. He did. So that's our update. We're both 1 for 6 heading into our third week this weekend. It'll be fun. And I had Sovereignty, and yeah, so we'll keep you posted with updates with that. So right into it, Belmont Stakes. How did the race go as you thought it would, and how did the race go different than you thought it would?
Most of the race went exactly like I thought. One thing went differently, very important. But before I go to that point, I want to commend Saratoga Racecourse. Considering the weather, they sealed the track. The track played wet fast. It looked like every horse was enjoying running on it. I didn't see anybody stop bad or anything. I didn't see a lot of mud all over horses. And I think it was a really great job. The track was really well done. And Sovereignty ran 2 minutes and 3/5 seconds. Pretty good time. But here's how I saw the race. Everything with the speed went normal. I didn't expect Sovereignty to be that close to the pace. In all of his races, he's been anywhere from 5 to 8 lengths back on an average. This particular race, he wound up being right behind the speed horse, about 1.5 lengths, 2 lengths behind. So the plan was different. They must have trained him differently. They knew they had to get into the race because we talked about how this track plays speed. When I saw him in that position, I knew I was in trouble. Journalism was outside, and I was hoping for a good race. But when Sovereignty was that close, he was playing for keeps. What'd you think?
Playing devil's advocate to that point, with the understanding, I agree with you, is there is also the gamble of being that close and taking a horse out of its natural running style that it's used to. Even though, let's say, they trained him to alter his style a little bit to be more forwardly placed, it still takes a lot out of a horse, and it's still a 1.25 mile race. So there is some inherent risk.
Yeah, good point.
To switch.
Good point. But they seemed so intense upon it. If you watch Junior, he rode that horse out of the gate. And then I read after that they had gotten more aggressive with his workouts. They wanted him to be closer to the pace. I think that's Billy Mott knowing Saratoga Racecourse. Knowing that if he was 8 lengths back in that race, maybe he would have got up by a head. But right. This was a dominant performance. Almost a repeat of the Derby. At the exact same point in time, they engaged each other. And my friend Anthony this morning said to me, he says, journalism backed up a little. No, journalism didn't back up. Sovereignty got past her. he took off. He accelerated, and that's a good horse. That's a good horse.
It is, and I will go back on my point, and one of the reasons why I love this horse so much pre-Kentucky Derby, I just think the longer the race goes, the better he gets.
Yeah.
And I truly believe on that. I believe that, I should say. So I did a little bit of digging because I wanted to have these figures ready for the pod. 23 and 0.69, so just about 23 and 3 was Journalism's final time. Like Sovereignty's final quarter.
Final quarter.
Pretty fast.
Good.
Very strong.
Very good.
And if you go back throughout the last 10 years, I looked up the last 10 years, Beyer speed figures in the Belmont. Even though traditionally the Belmont's a mile and a half, Sovereignty has the highest Beyer speed figure in the last 10 years. He had a 109.
Oh.
On Saturday.
Oh, that's very nice. That's very nice.
Very nice. And
that's very nice. But it was a sealed track. It was a different type of track. And sometimes on those tracks, they run faster times because the horse doesn't sink in. If it's a sealed track, it plays a little bit more like a highway sometimes when it's like that.
That's fair.
Sometimes.
No, that's fair.
I would take nothing away because did you see the way he was drawing off at the end of the race?
Yeah, it was an unbelievable performance.
That's a high Beyer.
It is high, and it almost like, and I have a couple fun questions here too, but it ties in a little bit to Billy Mott's decision to not run him in the Preakness. I think that Billy Mott's not somebody that just runs someone to run him. He takes his time, he finds his spot, and he almost makes sure the horse peaks at the right time. So I am a huge which we talk together, but I'm a huge UFC fan. And one of the best things I like about the fights is they go through a training camp, and then they try and get it so at the right moment on that night, they're peaking perfectly and they're in prime condition to fight. And it just felt like that's what he did. He said, I need a little bit of time. I can't go back-to-back weekends. I'm going to need a little bit of time to get in peak shape so that at this moment on Saturday, this past Saturday, I can put together my best fight or my best race.
I agree. And you know what? Billy Mott is a classical trainer who's been around a real long time. It was maybe 25, 30 years ago when I was at Belmont Park when he won the Breeders' Cup with Cigar. Cigar won 16 races in a row. Is that perfect training? Is that putting your horse in the perfect spot?
The right spot.
Every time? And that's what he did here. And you know what else I thought was interesting? When Sovereignty came onto the track, he was prancing on the track. You could see he was almost like in a little prance. He was ready. He was in the mood to run. He was in the mood to run that day.
He was. So I'm gonna we keep the receipts around here, if you will, and I'm gonna put my cousin's crap in the street. My cousin Derek, who we'll talk about and reference from time to time, a great horse player, calls us before the race. And he says, hey, I think Sovereignty's a little keyed up, little anxious in the post parade. It's journalism's day, you know what I mean? Yeah. And we talked about it after when we busted each other's balls. But I got on the phone with him on speakerphone, and I said, because my cousin Derek said the same thing in the Kentucky Derby, and I got on the phone with him. I said, don't make the same mistake again. Yeah, journalism did look unbelievable though, so I can't be too mad.
No, he was calm. His color was great. His musculature was great. But Sovereignty was prancing.
He was.
Sovereignty was kind of like, I'm ready for this. I've been waiting 5 weeks to do this again, bro. You've been hanging around doing a lot more racing.
Definitely. Okay, so the Belmont Stakes was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I felt like it brought a lot of drama. I liked that we got to see the three best horses run races that they were designed to run or had practice or prepared to run. So no one really got messed up with a trip.
None at all.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool to see the best three horses, best three-year-olds in the country.
It was uneventful in a way, other than the fact that Sovereignty was on the inside this time.
Yeah, it had to swing out.
And he had to swing out. But you know what? It wasn't a problem. It wasn't a check. It wasn't anything like that,
Yeah.
But great performance.
Kudos to Junior Alvarado.
Junior.
who must have seen. No, we posted a reel last week where I gave my pre-fight analysis, my pre-race preparation talk to Junior, and I basically just wanted him to keep him close, look him in the eye around the turn, and go. And we posted the reel, and actually Junior Alvarado liked the reel, which I thought was pretty sweet. So he must have seen it, like, you know what I mean. No problem, Junior. We got you over here. We have some good insight.
Hey, let's talk about what happened after the race, because it keeps staying in my mind because I'm a good sport. And ultimately, after the race, Junior and Umberto Rispoli's horses were right next to each other in the backstretch. Umberto, that Italian descent, very emotional people. He reaches over, gives Junior a big hug, and then pats his horse. And Junior reaches back and pats his horse on the neck. When was the last time you saw that happen in any race?
I don't know that I have.
I haven't either, and I saw 7 million races in my life. It was a beautiful moment. It just shows you can compete hard, do everything right, and still be a great human being and be a compassionate human being. And that's what that showed. It was classy. It was classy. I thought it showed humanity. It showed great humanity. I think just great athletes, great people.
Kudos to you, Umberto. I thought that was you're a class act, and it was a beautiful, beautiful moment. And I've seen the video a handful of times. That's one of the questions I asked this group that I'm a part of. Throw me some questions or thought-provoking things to talk about tonight, Belmont related, and that was one of them. So it was really a cool thing.
Yeah, I thought it was touching. I mean, it was like, and you knew at that point in time, there was no discerning the difference. Sovereignty was better. It was like Umberto said, your horse was better.
Right.
And
I'm all right with that.
And I'm all right. That's sports.
It is.
You know?
It is sports. Okay. So now let's get into a little bit more of a controversial discussion taking place right now. Not majorly, but just a little bit. So I'll just get right to the point. Do you think Sovereignty would have won the Triple Crown if they pushed him and ran him in all 3 races?
He certainly could have. But I would never doubt the professionalism of Billy Mott. And ultimately, is it that big of a deal anymore? We've seen some Triple Crown winners. Isn't it better to see somebody do what's right by the horse at this point in time? And I think that also speaks highly of the day and age we live in. It's not just all about the ultimate win, What do you think?
The competitor in me would have liked to have seen him in all 3 races to see if he could have made history, because I think he's going to go down as one of the best horses to ever run. But the passionate or compassionate side of me goes, I like that he took his time and he ran when the horse was ready, and then we got to see the result of what that looked like.
And maybe by him taking this time, maybe we'll see this horse run for a year or two instead of just be retired real fast.
Right.
Sometimes they win the Triple Crown, you don't see him. I loved American Pharaoh and Justify. They were gone afterwards. It takes a lot out of the horses and whatnot. This horse, maybe we could see this horse for a year or two and enjoy him.
I would love that. I would forego a Triple Crown and be able to just have that memory for just more experiences racing, and getting to see this horse. And I want to see him live.
Me too. Yeah.
So let's transition right into the rest of the summer. Let's go this route first. I'm going to give you what I heard Mike McCarthy say. I've now heard that something by him from like a couple days ago, and then something a little more recent. So this is what I heard. First thing that I heard was reported. He said we could go Jim Dandy, we could go Travers. We may end up seeing these 2 guys tango a few more times this summer. That's what I heard initially. Coming right out of the race. Most recently, I have a quote from Mike McCarthy, where he goes on to say, I think he deserves to be in one place for an extended period of time. Del Mar is just around the corner. He seemed to thrive there last summer. Everything about Del Mar is good. The climate, the surface, and the Breeders' Cup. What do
Right.
you? So what?
Yeah.
So react to those.
Okay,
two.
here's what I would say. As I was bicycling this morning, I was thinking about this, and ultimately, I wouldn't, like Josh says, we're competitors. We like to see these horses come back and run against each other. I don't think it would be smart to bring them back here. This horse is a better horse right now. Will that change through the course of a couple months? Slightly, maybe, but probably not. You send them to California. Here's my take.
Yep.
Send him to California. Let him rest for a handful of weeks. If he's on his feet and he's still strong and it looks like he wants to run, I'd ship him to Monmouth Park to run in the Haskell at the end of July. 1 1/8, like you said. You think he might be better at a 1 1/8. I'd ship him to the Haskell end of July, ship him back home, keep him at Del Mar, maybe run him on September 2nd, Labor Day in
Pacific.
the Pacific Classic. He might be better than some of the older horses and at least get used to the Delaware Strip if he wins that. If you can win the Haskell and that, and then come back and face Sovereignty on your home field in November, hey,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Why come back here and fight against a horse? Good chance you're going to get beat again, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, I actually really like that take. That is what I would do if I were McCarthy. It seems like he's a little bit
He didn't mention the Haskell?
no mention of the Haskell
Okay.
from what I've
Okay.
read.
Okay.
Not saying obviously that's not possible because I really like that for him too, especially how that course plays with him being more forwardly placed in races. Haskell and Monmouth Park play similarly-ish to Saratoga as being a speed favoring track.
And Santa Anita, too.
Oh.
Santa Anita has also a speed stalk type track, and he seemed to thrive. And you know what? He ran well off of a layoff. So even if he took some time, he came back to win a couple races off of layoff, you know? So I think that, but you know what? I think I'd get him back home and make some plans.
I would too. I'm going to go into Sovereignty now. Let's say you were training Sovereignty, you're Billy Mott. What would you do with him for the remainder of the year up until the Breeders' Cup?
Billy, like I said, is a conservative, and he knows that Travers is the Summer Derby. He wants the point for that. So, can this horse win at a 1 1/8? Obviously, he won at Gulfstream at a 1 1/8.
Mm-hmm.
So his plan to go Jim Dandy and Travers makes perfect sense. The horse is at home in Saratoga. You know, it's a great racetrack for the summer. I can see that as being his way. And then the question is, what happens when he ships to Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup? He will have never run on it or whatnot. But what happens between the Travers and early November? Is there another race for him somewhere in the middle of that? It might be something, you know.
I like it. I have the dates here down. Jim Dandy being July 26th.
July 26th.
And the Travers being August 23rd.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're sitting right now, second weekend of June.
Another 5 weeks, right?
It's
5 weeks from. That's what he did from the Preakness to the Belmont.
And look what we got.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, I don't know, that's kind of what I'm thinking is the right call. Maybe if he's not perfect by then, they could take a little bit more time. There's no reason why they couldn't do, like you said, you talked about the Haskell. There's no reason why they couldn't do the Haskell if he needed just a couple more weeks. He couldn't go for the 23rd because what's the Haskell, the first weekend of August usually?
Out of the end of July, we'll have to double check that.
Yeah.
It's either the end of July or early August. You know, that's. I think that's interesting. I don't know if Mike McCarthy would do that with his horse, but
You think if he wasn't ready, he would maybe just wait for the Travers?
if he doesn't ship back east with journalism, I think Sovereignty could be 2-5 in the Travers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know of any 3-year-olds that have come along right now who could pose a threat to him. Do you?
I don't think so.
I mean, Baeza proves that he was all right. He didn't really fire. He didn't run a bad third, but he didn't really run a great third. I mean, he didn't kick down the lane. He was, and I think they'll ship him back home and get him back to some California racing or whatnot. I don't know. I mean, he looked like he's probably a closer, but I don't think there's anybody going to compete with Sovereignty. I don't think so.
I don't think so either. So let's talk about the Classic a little bit. Do you think that the 3-year-old crop, or let's just say the best two 3-year-olds right now, which are Journalism and Sovereignty, do you think there's an argument to be made that they're better than the 4-year-olds and up?
Well, Fierceness last year ran a couple real high buyers, 108, stuff like that. He ran a couple nice ones, and remember, he got beat by Sierra Leone, and I think Fierceness on his best is good. He's won at a mile and a quarter, won the Travers last year.
Yep.
And he's good at a mile and an eighth. I think this weekend was a little bit tough for him, going a mile out of the Wilson chute. Todd was exactly right when he said he didn't want to necessarily be in that position on the rail. He struggled a little bit early, and then Frankie gets away with the Raging Torrent, beats the gate, and when he goes to engage him down the lane, Raging Torrent had a lot left and sprinted away from him. But Todd also said, and Johnny V said it, that Fierceness likes to keep his speed going more at a longer distance. Mile and an eighth to a mile and a quarter might be his peak. You know what I mean? So cutting him back to a mile was a little bit tricky. It was almost a sprint at that track in a way.
Seriously. I just don't think that's his best distance. No, I don't think that's his best distance.
Not at this stage of his life.
Right.
Maybe early on it might have been okay.
Right.
But not at this stage. His cruising speed is better for that
mile and an eighth. I would say is probably the sweet spot for him too.
But he'll be in the Classic. Maybe I don't know what's going to happen in Sierra Leone. I haven't seen him back. He could be in the Classic. He ran good in California last year. Mm-hmm. You might see Locked. Locked has run a few real nice mile and a quarter races. But I don't think there's any other commanding older horses right now. But it's still early in the season, But if those horses improve, if they keep their form right now, I think they would be competitive. But they're young. They might improve some more. That's what we don't know.
Yeah. I think I see a world where Sovereignty's the favorite in the Breeders' Cup Classic this year.
I see it too. Yeah, I see it too.
Which is kind of interesting. I haven't kept track of it close enough to know out of how many classics is the 3-year-old the favorite.
Well, believe it or not, I was at Belmont Park one year when what was his name? I forgot I can't think of his name right now. But he was a 3-year-old, and he couldn't even run with Lasix, and he won. He won the big race. It'll come to me, his name. But it doesn't happen that often.
Right.
It doesn't.
That's what I thought.
American Pharaoh did it, of course, but he was a super horse. And, super horses, a lot of super horses could do it, and especially if the competition's a little bit light,
Yeah. That'll be fun. It'll be fun to see how the next couple months go because they have some decisions to make by way of these two horses. You also could see some other 3-year-old horses emerge potentially that we haven't seen run in any of the Classic races. It's not impossible.
He comes out of the clouds, but I haven't seen it yet. From what we've seen lately, I don't know. Think of all the horses we've seen in the Classic so far. I mean, who do you think could improve from the Derby, the Preakness, the Peter Pan, any of those races who could really caught your eye and go, wow, I can't wait till this horse comes back. I mean, I'm not sure they're happy.
No. Who's the horse that beat Sovereignty at Gulfstream? He was closing and couldn't pick him up. Tappan Street's kind of interesting. Maybe he comes back and runs in the Haskell or something like that.
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't heard any reports on him.
I haven't either.
I forgot what he strained, but it's certainly possible. Certainly possible.
So yeah, the next couple months will be fun. And seeing how the races stack up. We have 1 month until the Jim Dandy. We won't be in Saratoga live for that one, but will we be there in the Travers? Do you go for Travers weekend at the end of the summer?
Once in a while. Travers draws an extraordinarily big crowd.
Yeah.
I've been there for maybe 10 Travers in the last 40 years, and they're fun, but they're big crowds.
Yeah, they're busy. I just wonder
if it's 85 degrees.
Yeah, jeez Louise. Yeah, I agree. So we actually went through a lot of our questions just by like chatting and just stumbling upon things,
Figures.
which is good. I kind of figured that was possible. But one question that somebody asked, which I thought was funky and fun, is do you feel like there's a possibility that RISPOli moved a bit too early on journalism in the race?
No, I don't think so. I think when you're running against a horse as good as Sovereignty, I don't really think there's any choice but to try and out sprint him and run away from him, because he has such a strong horse finishing. I think you got to get the jump on him. And the only thing that could have changed would have been Sovereignty not showing the speed that he showed. Maybe then. But the horse was running at the end of the race. Like you said, he ran 23-3.
Yep.
23-3. That's,
Yeah, it's pretty fast for the final.
I think they went to 6 furlongs and 112 and whatnot, but 2 minutes and 3 seconds. It's good time. It's horse racing time,
It is. So again, as I tap into my alter ego here, I agree with you mostly. The only part of me that goes, it's an interesting question and it potentially has some play, is I think journalism is one of those horses that is competitive and likes a target. And
that's possible.
Both times he's lost now to Sovereignty, he himself has been the target, and he hasn't had somebody to chase down.
That's I thought of that. I thought of that as a potential. I think there might be a 15-20% chance that there's some truth to that. You got to remember, when he was running down Gosker's not Sovereignty, you know?
Right.
I mean, Gosker wasn't quitting, don't get me wrong. But nonetheless, if you watch the Belmont, journalism pretty much ran at an equal pace all the way. He made a little move at the top of the lane, but he didn't spurt away. If he had the speed, you would think he would have spurted away. And I can't really say he didn't spurt away because there was nobody in front of him. There might be an outside chance of that, but I think that might be stretching it just a little too far.
It could be. I think that it's not completely off base to consider. But no. I mostly agree that I don't think the move necessarily mattered. Also, we talked about the great sportsmanship with RISPOli. I feel like if he had something inside of him that felt like I could have done this better, he probably would have been a little more frustrated with himself, and he kind of just seemed like, all right, he got me.
He lost by between 3 and 4 to Lance.
For sure.
That horse ran away from him.
He did.
You know?
He did.
And he ran a good race. I mean, he ran like 2:01-3 or 2:01-2, which would have been a respectable time and could have won a whole bunch of those races, you know? Like you and I talked about with Secretariat and Sham. Poor Sham. Sham almost set a couple track records running second, you know? And then guess what happens to Sham? After he gets his ass kicked in the Belmont that year, he never runs again.
Yeah.
He never runs again. And ultimately, you know, I read the book Sham last year. I got a book about Sham, and it there's a certain sadness to it because he could have been in the history books.
He could have. I mean, think about it. Journalism, let's say he runs last year and he wins the Triple Crown. It's like he goes down as one of the greatest horses to ever do it. You know what I mean? Like, who was running last year? I want to say Wise Dan, not Wise
Mystic Dan.
Mystic Dan.
Yeah, who I had a couple weeks ago. He finally came back to win a race at Churchill Downs.
Yeah, I saw that.
And
he had a good
race. He looked good. I saw him in the paddock. He looked very good. But
he could run in the Classic.
We remember what happened in that Derby. Taking anything away from Mystic Dan. But Brian Hernandez went through that little hole. He got like a 3/4 length jump on the closers who were banging into each other.
Definitely.
He got a little break to win that race. Because if Sierra Leone's not bearing in and banging into Forever Young, there's a good chance one of them two is going to win it. They lose the race by a nose and a head.
Yes.
You know?
Agreed. Maybe we see Dan in the Classic, or the Classic at the end of the Breeders' Cup Classic. He could go. He
could go, but I still don't think he's that class. I excellent horse, but I don't think he's that class. I mean, it's just, well, you know what? I don't want to go way ahead of myself with Sovereignty. I mean, we did see 3 great races from Sovereignty this year, 3, because very few horses can make up 12 lengths at Gulfstream Park.
Yeah,
You know?
seriously.
I mean,
seriously.
don't get me wrong. He only caught River Thames, and River Thames didn't turn out to be a good distance horse. So,
Right.
I mean, but what he did in the next 2 races was brilliant. Was brilliant. The big horse is good. You know, it's good.
Yeah, he just like lopes along and then like picks up speed. He's like a train. He's just like a train when he gets going. You just can't slow him down. He's an imposing force for sure. Gonna be cool to see what he does the rest of the year. Maybe even the Pegasus if they want to go end of year. You know, something big for him.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You know what? They have those races over in Dubai for like $10 million.
Yeah.
I mean,
It doesn't feel like a Billy Mott move though.
It could be with this one. It's.
I guess we'll see.
Billy has sent a few horses over in the last few years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially in this day and age. I mean, you get real good care and whatnot. The only problem is a lot of times these races and the travel and everything throws a horse off his biorhythms. They come back and a lot of times they flop, you know?
Right.
But, I mean, Raging Torrent certainly didn't when he won the Met Mile this week. He came back off of that, that race, one of those races, you know.
He did.
So, I mean, there's no set rules or whatnot.
It'll be cool to see how it plays out. We'll follow it along as it goes and keep the pod updated with some fun current events, where horses are pointed, likely spots, predictions for those races and stuff. I mean, it's a fun time. I feel like the summer between May and September is like one of the most fun times in the game.
And we'll follow their health.
Yep.
And things on what's happening. I mean, you know, horses are delicate. You pull a muscle, you have a sore foot, anything could deter a training program. You know what I mean? And take a horse out of its ordinary, rhythm. But we'll follow through. And hey, I root for all these horses. I hope they all come back and put on a show. You know?
Absolutely. We didn't get to do it episode 1 because we said we'll talk about it as we go. But I wanted to share a couple fun track stories today. So I'm going to tell the first one while I am. Maybe something will click with that, or if you want to think of one that's fun, I'm going to go with the first one.
Take your time. Have fun.
We're coming up to Saratoga and the Saratoga season, the Saratoga meet, which is one of the most competitive and the most fun meets. Reason being, you see a lot of long shots. Feel like everyone's pointed all year for that meet. So like all the horses are going to show up and run their best race. So each year, our family goes up and stays at a campsite within like 20 miles of the racetrack. And we go and we check out the races. We're there for 3-4 days. It's a ton of fun. One of our favorite bets while we're there as a group is a show parlay.
Yeah, show parlay.
Do you think a show parlay is a common bet amongst the horse racing?
No. Show parlays. I don't hear too many people talking.
I don't either. So so here I'm going to break down for you the DiDonato show parlay. We show up race 1. If you want in on the show parlay, $20 in. So there's usually like 7 or 8 of us in. We put $20 in and we start. First race, we bet a horse all the money, $150, $20 in would be $20 increments, Josh. 140, 160, 180, something like that. We bet it to show. If it hits, we continue on and we keep going throughout the day. And we've had some great days with it. We've had some days where we are knocked out in the first race. Here are the rules. Every time that you hit it, the very next race, you parlay the whole amount the next race. So, let's say we get 4 or 5 legs in, and the ticket starts at 160, and now we're up to, 540, 500 and change. If you want out, because you're like, I've gone far enough. If you want out, you can go out, but you only get your $20 that you put back in. But you're good. So you're good. That's the rule. So it's just my story is not as much of it's one little happenstance, but we do this every year when we go, and it's one of our favorite bets. Different people will operate it and be like in charge, and we'll all give our opinions, and then they ultimately have the pressure of making the decision. So we have a lot of fun. But when I first got into making my own bets at Saratoga and was old enough to use the machines, I can still remember us having one of those great show parlay days where we went maybe 6 or 7 in a row in a 10 race day at Saratoga. And I can remember putting the ticket in the machine, and then the ticket in the machine, the one time we were up to maybe like $1,500, and I couldn't make that large of a bet on the machine. So I was maybe 16 or 17 years old, and I remember going up to the window, and I can still picture the look on the woman's face, giving her my ticket and saying, "Can you please bet me $1,700 to show on the number 5?" And she's looking around for my parents and wondering what the hell is going on. And yeah, it was just one of my favorite moments. And I think we ended up losing. Maybe not that race, but one. We didn't go the whole way that day. Moral of the story, we ended up losing. But I still can picture her face and her doing one of those, like, looking out the window and then, like, looking either way to see, like, who was with me. I couldn't even been younger than that because I was betting on the machines pretty early. But that was one of my. I really enjoyed that memory, and she worked there for a while as a teller. She was really nice. We joked about it a couple times the next few seasons that we were there. But yeah, that's a fun story.
Well, last year we did hit it, remember? We didn't get it real high, but we cashed the ticket. I have a picture of it on my phone. I think it was $771. We made the whole card. There was a lot of short prices, but we cashed the thing for $771. It can be done. You know what I mean?
It can be done.
And it's a great thing. I did it once myself at Gulfstream. There were 12 races on a Saturday, and Gulfstream, I had an eye for long shots. I started with a $20 bill, and I think it was the 9th or 10th race, and I was up to like 1,100. All right, because I had one horse that paid like $8.60 to play the show. Then I had another one that paid $9. I had a couple nice prices, and I was undecided between 2 horses, and I had $1,100. I remember. I said, "Oh, damn it," you know. Now it was a 7 furlong race. I liked 2 horses. I couldn't decide which one to take, and I chickened out. I put 500 in my pocket. No, I put 600 in my pocket, and I only bet 500 to show, which was against the rules of the show parlay. And I chose the horse that ran 4th. The other horse that I chose ran 2nd. I would have hit it if they could pay $3 and change. But the long and short of it is, if I chose that correct horse, the next 3 races, I think there were 12 races, I liked all the horses that won the races. I would have hit it.
You would have gone the whole way.
And I think it would have been minimum $2,000 for a $20 bill.
That's crazy.
But I distinctly remember the second race. I liked the horse that was like 11-1. He paid like $8 to show.
That's what you need.
That quickly moves you up.
Right, because then once you start betting $300-$400 to show, even if the horse doesn't pay brilliantly, you're still going to make jumps.
There were no 3 to 5 shots that day either.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that was. Hey, you know what? But you know what happens? You get a little nervous. You kind of think, wait a minute, what am I doing here? But
definitely, and that's part of the fun thing with like the Di Donato bet when we go up to Saratoga is it feels like each year somebody new leads the show.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see different people step up and go like, I'll run it this year or I'll run it this day. And there's never any, it's just awesome. Like, let's do it. They always everyone gives their opinion, and then ultimately they pull the trigger on one horse after. It's fun. It's so much fun. And it's like, even the people that come that don't want to bet race to race, but want to say, I'll throw in $20 and then come and enjoy like the thrill of putting everything on the line and letting it ride. It's super fun.
It's a fun bet. It's a fun bet because you're not betting that much.
Right.
I mean, and if you lose, it's over.
Right.
You don't go, oh, we got to chase our money.
No.
You just kind of go, all right, what are we doing now?
Right. Right. We can get a hot
and we
dog.
go about our business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But those have been fun.
They have been fun. All right. So we talked about this off the pod and then on our practice session. But tell the podcast about when my big score as a little kid.
Oh,
because I love this.
Bridal Express?
Yes.
Well, that was crazy. All right.
Take me back. How old
All
do you
right,
think I was?
Say you were 7 or 8.
Probably. So 7 or 8. So
Josh
that's
is about 7 or
1998.
8 years old now. We're at Saratoga every summer, and we weren't there, long. We were a week or two, couple weeks we were there. So every time we went to the racetrack, I would give Josh a $2 bet every race. I said, Josh, who do you like? And whoever he liked, I played it. So there was a turf race. I remember it was maiden 40,000 New York breds. And I said, Josh, who do you like? And he said, I like the 7th dad, Unbridled Express. I think I said he was a Clydesdale or something like that. I said, you like the 7? I said, usually you come up with stuff that makes sense. He's 70-1 Unbridled Express. He's got a jockey. I still don't know his name. And ultimately, the horse wins. He paid $146. I think he paid 40-something to place, because I remember you getting about $186 or something on the bet. And it was like an amazing moment for an 8-year-old kid. And to this day, the horse didn't make sense. You know what I mean? But
no,
it was a maiden $40,000 race.
Things happen.
But you must have seen something.
I know. I got lucky.
And I don't know. I believe that sometimes somebody sees something, they don't always know what they see and whatnot. And you just pick something, and a combination of luck, but a combination of vibes. It's just a vibe kind of thing. You know what I mean? And that was like a great, that was your biggest hit as a child.
As a kid. So
yeah.
At the time, I was going to school, and I held my own tiny little wallet. And I remember going home from that trip and starting school in September, because we were there end of August, and still having money left over that my mom didn't know about. And going to school in the lunch line and paying for things, and teacher being like, why does this little dude have so much cash?
$100 bill?
Yeah, the $100 bill. And
send you to principal office.
I don't remember that. I think she asked me if this was mine, and I was like, "Of course it's mine." I should have just told her the Unbridled Express story.
You know what? Well, let's face it. We live in a little bit of our own cultural world. You know what I mean? Horse players are kind of like a different breed.
Definitely.
There's no doubt about it, because, like we've talked about it, the energy of it when you're vibing good. How about the other day, me and you with Delaware? I got the 4 horse at 11-1. You're rooting for that stinking 7 horse at 3-2. You got him 20 to win. I'm about to collect about 500-600. And you're yelling for that 3-2 shot. He beats me. I still wind up getting to try the exact and placing Joe and whatnot. But it was kind of cool.
It was. Well, I didn't know what you had.
And you picked the 4.
Yeah, I know.
You weren't rooting against me.
I wasn't rooting against you.
You were rooting for yourself.
Right.
You know?
I mean, if I knew what was in the cards.
But we might have went out for Indian food after that.
That burger we had was pretty good.
It was good. Good.
So, as a young kid, one thing that I felt like connected me to the racetrack very quickly, one was the fun. 2, and maybe the most important, was all the love and attention that I got from the jockeys as a little kid.
Oh, yeah.
So when I was real little, going to the track, my dad would throw me up on his shoulders, and it felt like race to race. Jockeys like Julie Crone, Mike Smith,
Jerry Bailey, Shane
Sellers was very good to me, because we were at Gulfstream, we were at Saratoga. Those were like our 2 landing spots where they were most of the time. I loved it. I just loved it. They would say hello, and as a little kid, these guys are rock stars.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah. They were great. I mean, think about it. These guys had serious jobs. You'd think they'd be thinking about their horses, and here they were saying hello to you. But you had that blonde hair. You were a cute little kid.
Yeah, just a little guy. I was just a little guy. And then it's funny because remember what would happen after the fact is sometimes when the jockeys would see just you at the track, and they'd ask where I was.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Hey, you know what? That's why I say ultimately we do a lot of different things. We play a lot of different sports. We have a lot of interests, but horse racing is one of our major interests.
It is.
You know what I mean? And it has just brought us a lot of good times, a lot of good health, a lot of laughs, a lot of cheer. Hey, you know what? You think about it. Think about the energy that goes through your body when they're about to come out of the gate and whatnot. There's like a certain nervousness, certain expectation. You're not sure if you're going to win or lose. The whole energy of the whole experience, it really is kind of thrilling. You know,
It is.
It isn't real normal life. Look, if you go to a football game, and we love football, you go to a football game, you're rooting for your team, and you feel all of that. When you go play horse racing, you're taking the money out of your pocket. Now you're participating in the sport. You're moving around more than they are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You're all over.
I mean, it's kind of an amazing give and take. It's kind of amazing give and take, you know.
I want to leave the pod, but I have a question for you. I'm going to paint a picture for you, and then I want your response, and I want to know why.
What do you got?
Here we go. 7th race, Saratoga, on a Friday. We're going to stick to the theme of jockeys.
Oh.
7th race, Saratoga. We're there on a Thursday afternoon. Okay. And it's a grass race. Let's say it's around. It's not a maiden or a claiming race, but it's not a grade 1. Let's go with a $75,000 little stakes race.
Oh, okay.
And you're standing in the paddock and you're waiting for your horse to come around.
Right.
And you really like the 3. Let's say 3 comes around and the jockey on top riding the horse, doesn't matter who it is, walks by. Are you feeling more confident if the jockey is got a little bit more of a laid-back demeanor, smiling and saying hello to people, or a jockey that is not even acknowledging the people, is tying the knot here and is dialed and focused, ignoring people that are saying hello?
I tell you the truth, I know a lot of the dispositions of the jockeys. So I wouldn't completely use that as a guideline, because some of them are just business and quiet. Some of them love people. Some of them are smiling and talking. They're kibitzing with the trainers and whatnot. So you get to know their personalities. If they're in personality, I don't see how it necessarily would matter. I would say this, that in certain situations, if you've won with a jockey in a certain situation, say on the turf,
I know where
you
you're
might
going.
go, whoa, I love Joel Rosario in this situation. And you'll see, or even now, I mean, Flavian Pratt, I mean, I see how hard Flavian Pratt tries. He looks like he gets every try. And Louis Saez riding at Churchill right now. Well, he'll be riding at Saratoga soon. Louis is a wonderful human being, joyful guy. I was at Gulfstream one day. Louis Saez rode the horse hard as can be from the start of the race till the finish of the race. I couldn't believe the horse won. I didn't know a horse could take that kind of punishment. But ultimately, he was all over the horse the whole time, and he won the race. How would you like to have a guy like that on your horse? And you feel good. So if I like a horse and Louis on him and he's got some tactical speed, I love it. You know what I mean? And some jockeys are a little bit more reserved, and you go like, well,
Who's more reserved? Give me an example.
Oh, I think I love the way Dylan Davis has been riding, but I've seen him sometimes, and I like that he rides smart. He kind of like sits and waits and tries to look for the right time to move, and he's gotten much better at it because he's becoming a major force. But ultimately, if you're on a speed track, I'd like to see the guys who are aggressive. If I think it's a speed track, I'd like to see the guys that are a little bit more. I'd like Louis Saez, Carmouche, those kind of people out of the gate and whatnot, you know? Hey, I was with you.
I like it.
I think you might have been with me once at Gulfstream. There was a speed bias, and there was an old jockey named Early Fires. Do you remember that name?
I remember his horse racing card. I don't remember actually watching him
All right.
live.
Early Fires was one of the best gate jockeys that I ever saw.
I mean, is his name not perfect then?
Yeah, exactly. Early Fires. I didn't even think of that. He was always on the lead, no matter who he was riding. This one particular day at Gulfstream Park, the speed bias was extraordinary. Anything that went to the lead the whole day won. He won 7 races that day. He won more races that day than he ever won in one day in his life, because he was a get to the front jockey. I had a few of them by the middle of the card. You know what I mean? But ultimately, so I think I'm not looking for the demeanor of the jockey.
Yeah.
I'm looking for how I think the jockey fits the horse. Maybe
Okay.
more.
I like the answer. I think I'm with you in it's a little bit of a lame answer in that it depends. I think that's unfortunately the answer. How about this? Do you think a jockey winning a race gives him, he or she, more confidence and then gives them a better chance to give you the best ride possible in the next race? As in, do you believe in jockey momentum race to race?
You know what? I would think that there's certainly potential for that. Just like when you're playing hoops and you just made an 18-footer, your next shot goes up real smooth and confident, you know?
Yeah.
And if you want to race, but you know what? These guys are professionals. And, you know, like sometimes, like my brother Jimmy, God rest his soul, he used to say to me, geez, I don't like the way Tyler's riding. I said, Jim, because he didn't win a race, you don't like the way he's riding. He said, you know what I mean? And ultimately, are you really watching how he's riding? Or is it the fact that he didn't win a race and whatnot? And sometimes being result players, sometimes is difficult.
Yeah.
Because you're going, geez, how did he not win with this horse? He makes total sense. Hey, did you look at the horse? Maybe he was tired. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot more plays into it, I think. You know what I mean? But I do like that angle a little bit, but at the same way, I wouldn't dwell on those particular things. It's like,
No,
you know
they're
what
just fun to talk about, but I agree.
Right. It's fun to talk about, but ultimately, you almost have to go into a zone when you're playing the horses. And you almost have to keep out those like extracurricular things that are, you know, they're just little peaks. You know
Agreed.
what I mean?
Because unlike a football game and unlike a basketball game, that next race, it's almost as if the race before didn't even exist. It's a
Exactly.
completely different thing. It's not just a new play with a new package and stuff, a new defensive scheme. It's everything's different, race to race.
Josh, you know what else gets me? I don't want to tell you how many times I've gotten shut out on winners. I remember once I'm at the house in Ocean City. It's a true story. I'm at the house in Ocean City. Me and Mackie were playing a few races at Saratoga. And that was the time it was like the cousin connection. And what happened was one of the little kids wanted me to move my car so she could play basketball. And I love the kid. And I'll never forget it. I didn't get my superfecta bet in. I moved the car, and when I came in, I got shut out, and it came out and paid like $1,248. And it was kind of like, did that just happen? I mean, how many times do you get shut out? And sometimes you get shut out, and yours, you know, it saves you.
You have to say, yeah.
But those moments, you're kind of like going, how can it be that really happened? You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. That's the beauty of life. Life doesn't always make sense, you know?
No, it does not make sense. It doesn't. It doesn't. So a couple jockey performances, like I can remember a day at Saratoga when Ramon Dominguez, I think, won 7.
Oh.
And so just coming back to the jockey momentum thing, I can picture a day Paco Lopez winning a bunch at Monmouth in a single day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? JJ Castellano winning a lot in a row at a day. Even like a Gulfstream I can picture back in the day. Can you picture any other streaks like that?
That's a valid point, though. I think, like you're saying, it's like when things are going right for you, you tap into the best. You trust yourself. You have confidence in yourself. We're human beings. And you know what I mean? And
We are.
it's, hey, look, I played a bocce game today on the beach, right?
Yep.
I just got beat at the end. You know, it was a great match. And guess what my friend Danny says? He says, I really needed that. I said, what did you need that for? What do you mean you needed that?
Why did he need it?
used those words. I needed that. You having a bad day? What do you mean you needed that? He actually said those words.
Dear God.
Ultimately, but it made me laugh. And
a
I
great
still
line.
enjoyed playing because I've reached a point in my life where winning and losing, I always try to win, but I don't really care.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's awesome. That's actually awesome. Dear God. Speaking of winning and streaks, do you remember the year that Rosario went completely unconscious and won like every race at Keeneland for like a meet? He set a record, I think, like 40 winners at Keeneland.
And you know what the problem with that is? 2 years later, when the guy's back to normal heights,
Yeah.
somebody will make a comment, geez, Rosario ain't what he used to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think you're going to be able to maintain that?
That was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes back a handful of years. It's probably like 10 years now. But, right? Is that possible?
Hey, Josh, let's talk about what Flavian did last year.
Yeah.
Flavian Pratt broke the record and ran and won 50, I think it was 57 stakes races 57 of them, and I saw most of them. It was like some of them were unbelievable rides. He had great horses, but they were unbelievable rides. This guy's zoned in. This guy's one of the top 10 jockeys in America. There's no doubt.
Give me a jockey that maybe the common horse player doesn't know that's underrated but going to be pretty good.
Probably Juan Hernandez. Now Juan.
Okay, interesting.
Juan is from Mexico. He's been riding in.
Where does he ride primarily?
California.
Right.
He's at the big tracks, but my guess is his family is settled there. I rarely seen him travel east to ride in New York. Once in a while, I think he had a couple mounts at Churchill, but I've watched him now for the last couple of years. Strong as could be. Everybody trusts him. He's the leading rider at most of these meets ever since Flavian left and came east.
Right.
He's been, but when I make a bet on him, I feel confident. I feel confident in him. You know, especially if I like the horse, it's like I'll bet a little bit more.
How old do you think he is, Juan?
Juan, I'm gonna.
Got to be low 20s, right?
I think maybe
Older?
30. I think he rode for a few years in Mexico, and then I think he came here in a little bit of. I didn't think he came here and started like at 16.
I thought he was like 25. We'll have to do some.
But if you look at him, he's pretty big. He's pretty strong, and I think he's a great athlete. I just think he's a great athlete. Look, Bobby B's using him. Everybody's using him now and whatnot. And like I said, when Flavian came east, he became the primetime player there. Now, also, I mean, Antonio Fresu's been riding great. Umberto's riding great. Kyle Frey and whatnot. But Juan Hernandez is probably, right now, I would say one of the best jockeys I've seen. What do you think? Who do you see? Anybody?
I was gonna say Fresu because I feel like
he's good.
To the common horse player, he's not a name that you know.
Oh, Antonio's good.
Yeah, but he's solid. Another strong Italian rider. He's Italian, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, Italian rider. You know who I miss? I miss Edwin Maldonado, the Candyman.
Yeah, Candyman still gets some mounts.
He gets some mounts, but I feel like I heard about him more a handful of years ago.
Yeah, right. Well, you know what? California's got a lot of small fields.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to run a bunch of races and you're going to have half of those races only with 5-6 horses, which it happens in California.
Yeah, it does.
That you're going to get those top 5 jockeys
going to get a lot
riding most of those races. And they only run like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that's a little problem. That's one of the reasons why a bunch of jockeys left California and headed to Churchill. Even some of them went to Turfway Park. You know?
Do you think he has the best nickname of jockeys in the game right now? The Candyman. It's a pretty solid nickname. Do you think there's a better one?
Let me think. No, I can't think of any a better one right offhand. I can't.
It's pretty sweet. What about the Iceman? That's a pretty sweet one.
Oh,
George Wolf.
Franco, Lanfranco Dettori. I mean, he's going to retire. Now he's riding again. He breaks his horses out. He's so
unbelievable.
Happy when he wins. He does that flying leap off the horse, and it's just, he brings a lot of joy to the game.
He does.
He's got an energy that's just infectious,
He makes you smile. I love seeing him in the Netflix. If you haven't already, check out the Netflix doc. What's it called? Race to the Wire? I always
something like that.
I don't know why. Every time I say it, it's like such a specific.
That's exactly it, but it was something like that. But it was well done.
Race for the Crown.
Race for the Crown.
Maybe Race for the Crown.
It was well done, and a lot of the bios were done because they didn't rush through it.
Yeah.
They stayed with the guy for a while, so you got a feel for his life.
Definitely.
And that was a quality. That was a quality program. I mean, I had to watch that with us.
Yeah, we that one was fun. But listen, that was episode 2 of the Daily Double Pod. We have some really fun things coming up in the next couple months. We'll continue to preview some races, talk about where some of these great 3-year-olds go, Saratoga meet starting, and everything in between.
Yeah, awesome. Good weather and I mean, who could ask for more?
I know. Delaware Handicap this weekend.
It is?
Yeah, no, we're going to a show. I can't freaking go.
When is it? On Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
What about that tire I got with the slow leak?
No, we're in trouble.
Oh, no.
All right. See you guys next time.
See you, bro.